Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich Events 4. Let's get at this. We gotta get the clock moving, keep it going. Giant infrastructure projects has advanced. Okay. Now, we've got this one done. So it's June now, the first of next year. We could have not done the economic boost of 10% for this year, but I think that is helping us considerably here. So my hope is by doing this now and then in the future going to the other one, the long-term investment, we'll get the maximum out of it. Okay, we're going to build up nav pilot training. There you go, Harmon. The political map. Look at weather. Intel, we don't have much intel there. Some of these I think are like that. To me is near useless. Does anybody else ever use that? Yeah, it's useful. We can see where our supplies are going and how they're being moved, though it may not be as helpful as we'd like. Okay. Aircraft carrier technologies have advanced. Well, with experimentations with the last playthrough, we weren't able to purchase. I know that was the suggestions by several people, was just to license build a carrier either from the US, which most people I think thought that they wouldn't agree to it, or from Japan. Well, there wasn't even an option to license built carrier, so I think that's been nerfed or something in there. So if we're going to build a carrier at all, we should research at least some of these, or we'll have a pretty poor character. Now, with that being said, we're not really planning on doing a big carrier base navy for Germany. It's more to please Herman, partially, but also just for usefulness later on. So I'm willing to donate, or devote, I should say, up to one slot for research regarding carriers. So we will do that. Okay, and ordering the battleship Bismarck. Yes, we'll take the battleship Bismarck. Now we're going to keep it way down here, and that's mostly just what we're going to do with it. Keep it down there while we're building up our infrastructure, industrial infrastructure, as well as that, our transportation infrastructure, mentioning that. These are where the highways are. Victory point mode. Ah, good. TENO event. TENO. Is how that's normally known. This is from GGA. Not played with this event before, so we will see. Let's see, civil defense gain, yes, that seems appropriate. They were, before the war, they were doing other technical developments, improvements, that kind of stuff. But they were definitely part of the repair squad, if you will, once the bombing started. Turn manpower back. That's pretty cool image. I think it's a rather real image from a British, or presumably British, Mosquito overflight of the Peenemünde Rocket Research Center. So that's cool. That was added by Black Ice Theater mode. I again don't use that really much at all. Air, we'll see where we can go. Okay. Yes, we got that. It's money, but entertainment show, that will help. The 1000th anniversary of Heinrich I's death. I included this event partially because I found a bunch of pictures of it, because it makes it more real when you see pictures than just simply giving you some text. Heinrich Himmler was a mystical nut. I think I can safely say that. He was also an evil guy too. I mean, those are two different things. You can be a good guy and be a mystical nut. He believed, and I'm not saying just because you believe in reincarnation, you're a nut. So some people will think that. But he believed he was or possibly was a reincarnation of Heinrich I. It's sort of like you'll find lots of people who believe they're a reincarnation of Napoleon or something. Very few people who believe in reincarnation feel that they were a peasant farmer somewhere. You know, they always want to have interesting past lives, not boring past lives. So that's sort of how I'm going between that and just simply believing in reincarnation. And so that's part of why I wanted to include this event. But it's also his used to try to promote the First Reich, the founding of that as a unified German nation, and looking way back at history to justify, to validate Germany's new position in the world as well. Build new industrial zones. Okay. I think we will take this, yes. Should transfer that power back to the pool. So we can see where our air power could reach to. Naval, obviously there's not much going on. Strength mode, that to me is useless for the most part, and very useful. Our industrial. Okay, so we've now at 4% minus for consumer goods during war and peacetime because of improved shows, so that will help us out a lot. We have a little bit there, so we've gone down to 36. We're going to let this go just briefly because we want to lower the national unity some. There will be events that will increase and decrease descent level, not national unity. That's descent levels. Okay. Oh, this is talked about this picture. Okay. Kurt Sesnig, sorry, German's Chancellor of Austria, gave up his anti-Nazi program, so this improves relationships with the Reich. There were maybe more fascists, which I believe he was one of them. There was a pro-fascist, pro-Austrian political movement in Austria that wanted Austria to remain its own state. It was very right-wing. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, and I know it's going on a little bit of dangerous ground here, so it probably upsets some people, there's no real reason for Austria to exist without the Habsburg monarchy. That was its raison d'etre. They had been traditionally the Holy Roman Emperors, which was an elected post, though, it was elected by a group of electors, not by the population. And it was the Hohenzollerns through Bismarck that sort of pushed them out of the Holy Roman Empire, which allowed shortly later on, the formation of the Second Reich, if you will, under the Hohenzollern Kaiser instead of the Habsburg Kaiser. And so that really pushed it from being Austria to Austria-Hungary, and it was set up around the Habsburgs and their empire, and that made sense if you were going to have that. If you're not going to have that, I don't see a reason for Austria to exist. There may have become one now, I don't know. There may become one enough in the future that there's enough difference between Austrians and Germans to have a different nation. The only thing I can think of really in a sense is Catholic Germans and Protestant Germans need their own countries, but that would include generally things like Bavaria or whatever joining with Austria. So it just, to me, doesn't make sense. So I understand the, shall we say, pan-Germanism of the Austrian Nazis with the Austrian SA and all that stuff. Not that I'm advocating for a Nazi Greater Germany, but just if you're going to have one peoples, one culture, one, language, why do you want multiple states? Unless you're an outsider, like a Frenchman, a British, or an American, that wants an East Germany, a West Germany, and an Austria to keep Germans divided, so that they don't concentrate and decide to start marching across Europe again. That's a reason, but that's not necessarily a reason specifically for Austria to exist. So I don't entirely understand the sort of right-wing extremism of the time period that wants Austria to exist, especially if it wasn't tied to pro-Habsburgism. So, just my musings on the topic. I'm sure if you Germans or other people want to weigh in, they can. Just be respectful. I'll accept respectful talk, but yeah. Tell me why I'm wrong, why something about Austria needs to be different than Germany. And I'll listen to it if you have a good idea. Okay, and this I mentioned earlier because I wasn't sure if the event had fired yet. One of the few times where you have the Hindenburg, you can see it's more bulbous, or rounded, if you will. And the Graf Zeppelin LZ-27, which is longer and narrow, and you can see the sort of the front bridge thing is a protrusion out here versus there. One of the few times they were together over a city. Rather impressive photo, I thought. And doing these stunts helps German popularity. Yeah, I'm gonna stop you. Okay, because you're running away. Hitler Youth bicycling trips. There were a bunch of these. This is just a picture of one at a railway station in Sussex. Hitler Youth there with their flag. A British Boy Scout type organization there that sort of hosted them. There were a lot of these, especially in Western Europe. Not entirely understanding, maybe it was for the Nazis to do something on an ongoing basis, not just that they did it, a few of them did it once or twice. There's got to be a greater purpose of it. Whether it was to spread National Socialism, I'm not sure. Whether it was to get the German youth, which will be future German soldiers, the idea and knowledge of other countries so that they'd be better prepared to occupy them in future, or whether it was sort of a even more blatant spying mission, go and take a lot of photos, bring that back so that we'll have a reservoir of knowledge of where things are when we decide to invade. I don't know, I just figure there's got to be some plot behind it. Well, this will cost us money. We don't send them, and I don't know, I'll spend the money because we got the money, 30. And this is where, again, I agree that we should spend money because it's an overseas expense, not a domestic. Bern Rossmeyer and Ellie Byhorn marry these two people there. He was the main racer for Auto Union. They were a super mega star couple for the period in Germany. She was a pilot, he was a race car driver, a rather good one. So that reduces our dissent here, because big weddings like that do that kind of thing. And then she takes off, and you can read this for a long distance flight very shortly after they're married. And so we reduced our dissent even more. Okay, the Spanish Civil War. Like I said in the previous episode, this is where the political map particularly does come in good. We can see this color brownish here is nationalist and republic in Spain, with a few just rebels breaking out. There was an ongoing red terror that group of generals in Spain decided to plot a coup against the government. It failed. It was not started by Franco. He was down here on one of these islands as sort of officially a governor, which right now is not. They should be taking this back, because he had been a rather good military commander, fighting down here, and also against, I think up here, I think it was against another rebel earlier outbreak. Once the coup failed, sort of a somewhat covert mission by the Luftwaffe, which they collaborated with some nationalist generals to petition Franco to come into the war. They did. They got him, and they flew him out. Flew him over to Spanish Morocco. Got the troops that were fairly loyal to him. A lot of them were Moroccan types, and flew them into Spain to sustain the nationalist cause. So that's how that started. Now, what is Netherlands? We give them money for crude oil? No. Money for oil? No. Okay, and I think we will have an opportunity to intervene. Yes, we want to intervene in the Spanish Civil War. You can see how things are changing on the map there. It may be more interesting than watching Germany not change. It's generally, for most people's playthroughs and report, about a 70-30 chance that the nationalists will win. But I have seen in my playthroughs and other people, the Republicans win. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. But there is an event that if it goes too late, I think it basically counters that the fascists win. If the Republicans haven't won by sometime in 39 or something. Italy. I will give you energy for money. We'll no longer see money from Chile. not to Amazonian, whatever. The Night of the Amazons. This was one of the festivals based in Munich, sponsored, set up by SS Brigade Führer Christian Weber. It was a very raucous party. It was also set up during the day. It was a lot of horse racing going on, so you'll see the horse theme often within the posters. So this was sort of the main, to my knowledge, hedonistic type party in Nazi Germany, but there were other things often around May Day. So this will help with popularity. Throw the people a party, they'll like it. See, we got high popularity because of it, yay. Then we'll probably lose it very shortly, just because of internal factors or whatever else. Most things we're doing improve popularity, especially with him. It should be doing that stuff. Okay, that gives us another slot to research. Let's do the short barrel gun research. Might as well while we can. So now we're down to 0 descent. So we're concentrating on factory production. Destroyer, main armor advance. Yeah. Okay, so we've got all that to 38. We'll get Huffduff. Again, as you see as I hover over there, all the different ship types that get benefits from some of these. And I know a lot of people concentrate on the army, get that super strong and use that as their you know, great war-winning weapon. And it is the great war-winning weapon. But as you'll see if you watch, particularly if you've watched my previous campaign, or if you stick around for this one, you'll see some of my various adventures that are helped by naval operations, but also even, you know, coastal naval operations in and around Norway, you know, in the Baltic, Mediterranean. All those small vessels will help, and we will be building a bunch of those. Yes, we will build this, and I know we have a tech there, but before I forget, we're going to go down here, and this is why they have it in red. Before things are adjusted, they will pop through as 0 IC. We've got to get them up to the top first. Just like that. Hopefully we're at 68 ICs for industrial capacity. Hopefully those will help our practicals. And okay, airbase. Okay, heavy naval aid, or heavy aid. That's not naval, but just heavy aid guns have been improved. What's a lot there basically is improving flak 88s. So they started out sort of at the beginning of the war, basically mostly with flak 18s, and then the numbers go to, like, I think it's like flak 36s and whatever. So they improve, and most of that, not all of it, but most of it is like improved carriage designs for better, you know, targeting of other flying aircraft and things like that. Some of it was also ease in manufacturing. They were doing stuff that kept the functional quality up, but reduced production time. Well, now let's improve. Have ground crew, and we use a lot of naval bombers and flying boats to back up our coastal operations. First Moscow show trial, a bunch of innocent people. We're going to blame them for what's wrong in the Soviet Union because life sucks here, and it must be either reactionaries that are wanting to return the czars and evil capitalism, or just Trotskyites who want to disrupt the system. But really, mostly, it's just show trials to create bad guys to blame for Stalin's failures, because Stalin never failed. Yes, we're back down to medium popularity, like I thought. Because we can look here and see internal factors. It's reducing our popularity. It will give you fuel for money. We got plenty of fuel. We really need to cut these guys off. Okay, NSKK traffic police. It's KK. You say it 3 times. I don't know. Like I think I mentioned earlier, this, the old SA Motor Storm, as it swallowed up other organizations, it also developed the first, in essence, traffic police. Not that there weren't necessarily local police that were given traffic duty, I'm not saying that, but they were sort of a national highway patrol, policing initially a lot of the Autobahn and doing that, but they were, like I said, they also did roadside support services and other things as well, but they were an enforcement arm. And obviously you see this guy here sort of covered up now the way I moved it, out directing traffic in a city wearing the police shield there. Sort of the German version of a badge. And so that they did this as part of the nationalization, if you will, unification of the systems around Germany. The NSKK was part of its policing force, so we will be safe, but we lose a little popularity because the party organization is enforcing the laws. And we're coming up for the Winter Olympics, and Coke is helping sponsor the Olympics. Yay! We'll gain a little bit of money. Whatever they are. Dollars, has dollar symbols, so it must be dollars. Okay, yes, we want to break the Reds. We lose a lot of dissent if we had any. Gain some national unity. This will help us out, also help us out with relations heavily with the Spanish state. We want that. I guess if you want to play a more world-conquering kind of Germany, you might not want to do that and let the Republicans win, so you have more justification to conquer Republican Spain. Because my current plan would be, if the Republicans win this time, I'll continue playing. And my panzers, once we get France, will just keep rolling into Republican Spain. Okay, Ellie talks about just the situation while her husband was away for some race or something. She flies like the first person to fly over 3 continents one day. So she flies, Berlin or wherever, to Hungary to refuel, then flies down to Syria, and then from Syria, all in one day, to Egypt. I don't know if it specifies. Then this would be in Asia. Cairo, it says. From Cairo, back up to Germany here. And so she flies over, all within 24 hours, over 3 continents. One of the first people or whatever to do that. Great National Socialist achievement. So the German propaganda ministry will say. China's offering us a trade agreement. No. Okay, we're building up too much. This time I'm playing with keeping diplomacy to the minimum, trying that out. See if it's going to negatively affect. Because what's going to happen is at some point, and I don't want to do it now, especially while Iraq is still in the Allies' camp, and it might be useful to try to influence these guys, but I think you have greater impact once you're controlling territory next to them. Like when we invade Greece, we'll be next to Turkey, or when we get into here, we'll be next to Saudi Arabia. That type of thing. So we're gonna shift at a later stage over to trying to influence them, which will, instead of my usual habit was to slowly build up a reserve and then dump it all in once I was actually doing it. This time I'll just shift research, so this will front load some of my research a little bit better. Well, the Republicans are doing fairly good, especially up along here. And one of the reasons, obviously, that like Franco should try to cut this off and also try to link up here is, well, without any ports, it cuts these guys off from getting supplies. But it also, if Franco, I presume, has some transports, I mean, the Republicans do, if they're supplying this via the sea, you have a chance of killing some of their supply ships that will, as I've noticed here, the Spanish state got Mallorca, which isn't normal. I think it's normally a Republican stronghold, the way it normally goes. But so to cut off their ability to supply things by taking out their transports, which if they're going to try to continue to supply them, they've got to build more transports, which diverts them from doing other things. Okay, energy magazine cover for the Olympics. Cool. This is about all it is. Just more of a informational flavor. As you can tell, I had some of the stuff I cut before I released, and I haven't gone back and rebuild it. There's a whole chain of events covering the Olympics. A few random things like that have stayed in, but I had like 6 or 8 events that someday I'll redo that cover the Summer Olympics. Something very interesting going on. This I added later. We'll see Arno Becker. That's this guy. He's a sculptor. The Olympics, and it wasn't just because it was the Berlin Olympics, but the Olympics used to have medals for other things than just the sports. He gets the silver medal for basically these 2 statues, and there were other non-Germans that were bringing in sculptures and that were recently made, and that competing for the prize. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of the heroes, though he was sort of too little too late. A sort of a Christian teaching element to resist the evil in sort of a non-violent way. I know people herald Gandhi big time, and I think a few people watching this series, Indians, who have very low opinions of the British and what the British did in India, and I'm not trying to say everything they did was good, but the only way your non-violence of Gandhi works is if it's being used against a society who at least sees itself and wants to see itself as a just society. It may not be a just society. I'm not claiming that it is. I'm just saying they need to see themselves as that, because non-violent appeal against Nazism just gets you in the death camps. Whether they work you to death or whether they, execute you. So if there was a Gandhi in India, it was probably this gentleman, and he was somewhat outspoken, but not quite as outspoken as Gandhi, and he had protectors within the system. Basically, Admiral Canaris, because he eventually goes to work for the intelligence apparatus and survives for a while because of that. But it was sort of the external, not, promoting Germany, not promoting the Nazis. So we gain a bunch of dissent, as you see there, because of that. So yeah, all hail Bonhoeffer. But it doesn't work against a society that's willing to use complete and total force. So like the Nazis, or like, Stalinists, the communists, you go on a Pol Pot or Mao or whoever. And today I would say ISIS. There's been cases of non-violent people standing up against them and they're just shooting them down. So, doesn't always work. Ah, yes, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, but the Society for Marine Technology. This society goes back to the Kaiser Reich, still I think at this time with this event in 36. The Kaiser, who's in exile in the Netherlands, there in Holland, is still technically the primary patron for this society. And we can throw some resources at research, and this is obviously researches marine technologies, and they were supposedly doing some research. You can read the details there. So yeah, we improve our naval construction research. And if you notice, the values there were just like 10 days or whatever improvement, nothing outrageous or game upsetting. Hydrophones have advanced, so we can now better spot submarines. We'll improve our fire control systems for our light vessels there. Well, Spanish state's not big enough to have this name there in big letters. We're about ready to get a flood of, and as you see, we had a minor improvement from the air bases. Very minor, but still. Hitler and Heinlein. Heinlein and Hitler. This gentleman here, he's the leader of the Sudetendeutsches Party. Party leader, sort of. Very much part of Hitler's plan to disrupt Czechoslovakia. So if we don't, and this is something, if you're going to play through it, if you don't support them, give them money, you won't get basically the ability to do the it's the Sudetenland without a fight. So yes, we want to do that. If you just want to drive if you either want to leave them alone or you want to drive your panzers in, don't do this. Otherwise, you want to support the SDP. Because there was, and this is back in 36, there was a multi-year support for the for the Nazi elements within, or the German elements, however you want to look at, within Czechoslovakia. Factories on the map, that's good. The Swiss Nazis. Wilhelm Gustloff was a part of the Nazi element, or I forget the exact name for Ausland, the party element for Germans in foreign countries. And he was a very big proponent of that. When we can support the Nazis with money and some supplies, which will increase Nazi support in there. The organizations that you will see highlighted in there are very real. They had a minor but significant amount of support. Basically, I would say, from my understanding of it, mostly Germany didn't actively support the Nazis in there, mostly I believe because of Wilhelm Gustloff was killed, because it was sort of his project. He was pushing it. Once he died, Hitler and the rest of the people lost interest. Meaning, like, I don't know if Heinlein had died, would they have continued to support the SDP? I don't know. Somebody can get a time machine and go back and kill him and see if it works out one time or something. But this is our chance if we wish to support them. If you don't want to get the and see a lot of the Swiss Nazi events, just say no here. This will go away. You won't see very few of them will happen. And now, if you're planning on invading, if you're not planning on invading Switzerland and you're just going to leave it alone, you can just ignore them and say no, and it'll go away. If you want to invade them and you step through the series of events, you will have a chance of raising an SS unit out of it and gaining some cores and some other stuff in Switzerland. So if you want to go down that path, this is probably the plan you want to do it. I'm going to do it just because it adds immersion to the game. And let's quickly look at, I'm going to switch over to this map. Got new factories, but we want to make sure we want to be building in provinces that have industrial centers in them. Forget. And there'll be a few more that are coming in just today or so. But I just want to make sure. We didn't have one first time. We didn't have one there. They got one there now. Okay, so first off, we're going to drop all that. Down to the bottom. And we're going to, well, these will come up very soon here. Okay, I think this is going to be the end of this episode here. So, thank you for viewing. You can take a quick look at the world situation here. At the end of this, we can see Spain sort of balanced right now between the Republicans. They're actually pushing into cutting off there. The rest of the world mostly at peace. I say mostly because we're still having Abyssinia holding out for a bit of a war there. Okay, thanks for viewing. We will be continuing this.